whatever I can do in my power to get one step closer to moving to LA, I'm going to do that. Hey, y'all, and welcome to my first YouTube video. I don't even know how to really start this off, but we're just going to let it flow and get right into it because I've been wanting to start a YouTube channel since I was in my teens and I am now in my 30s. Okay. I watched this video last night. It was a series of things that I was watching that just gave me the boost of motivation that I needed to just say F it and do it. But there was this one girl that I watched last night, and if I find her video, I'm going to leave it down below. But she was just basically talking about getting out of your own way and just starting, just doing it. And there's been so many times where I wanted to start, and I'm a perfectionist, I'm an overthinker, I'm all of the above when it comes to creating obstacles between where I am and starting. And today I was just like, girl, just get on the journey. I just don't want to be so overly concerned with the way that I look or the way I show up on camera. Of course, listen, at the end of the day, when you look your best, you feel your best. And I'm going to do my best to make sure that I feel good every time that I come on camera. But at the end of the day, if you're allowing for these very minute and superficial things to stop you from getting out a message, you really need to evaluate what the problem really is. Nonetheless, so I wanted to just kind of create this video as like an introduction video. And I was trying to record this earlier while I was doing my hair, but it was a whole situation. So today is going to be a story time video of how I ended up moving to LA because I feel like it's just such a inspirational message. And yeah, I just feel like it's such an inspirational message. And I feel like this is just a great way for me to start out this channel. First of all, I wanted to move to LA not LA. Let me be specific. I wanted to move to California probably since 2015. Around 2014, 2015 is when I first got the idea to move to California. I told my mom, I told my dad, I was like, listen, y'all, I want to move to California. And at that time, I started doing a bunch of research, mainly on YouTube. That was my research platform. But I started doing a bunch of research on how to move to LA and just kind of get in. I keep saying LA, but how to move to California and just looking at other people's experiences, testimonies, trying to figure out how much money that it takes to move to LA and just all the details, everything from A to Z on moving to LA. And in 2015, while I was watching those videos, I got really discouraged because it just seemed like there was so many things to do and so much to worry about. And I just got scared and completely overwhelmed because I'm originally from New York. So, literally moving to the other coast at this time, I was in my mid 20s or early 20s. So it was just really overwhelming for me to, digest doing it. I'm a city girl. I'm not used to cars. And it seems like a lot of people were saying like you need cars to get around in California. And the expense list just kept getting longer and longer and longer. And I was just like, okay, maybe I'm not ready to do this. So 5 years later, during the pandemic, I feel like everybody was having this whole life transformation, realizations were coming up, and I was not exempt from that process. And in 2020, I just really started thinking about what it is that I wanted with my life, what I wanted to do with my life, what was most important to me, and what are some things that I really wanted to work toward accomplishing before I left this earth. Not to be that like morbid about it, but seriously, I was like, what is it? Listen, a lot of people were losing their lives. So it only makes sense that I was coming with that level of intensity. And one of the first things, if not the top thing that I had on my list was move to California. So At this time period, I was watching one of the motivational speakers, Les Brown, and I absolutely love him. And one of the things he said, which is probably why I was also on this type of time, but one of the things that he said is, you will see a bunch of dreams and beautiful ideas at the cemetery, because there are so many people that die with their dreams inside of them. And I just felt so strongly convicted that I didn't want to be one of them. I started working on this list in like the month of May. And then by June, I was like, that's it. I'm booking my flight to California. The part that I specifically booked to was San Francisco, because I had a couple places on my list that I wanted to visit. LA was on the list, but San Francisco was top for me because I just heard a lot of good things about San Francisco and I felt like I would really like it there. So I booked my flight for August. August came, I went to California and absolutely loved it. Let me just, couple pros and cons. So, things that I liked about San Francisco is it's a walkable city. Like, you do not need a car. So for me, it was like one less thing to worry about. You don't need a car. I loved the city feel to it. Like, I can't explain it. It was like a cute little city that I really enjoyed. I love the environment. I love the hills. There was so many things that I loved about San Francisco. But things that I didn't like about San Francisco is it was freezing, y'all. And when I said that I wanted to live my California dreams, I meant like the sun included with it. So I was not prepared for that weather at all. I had all types of summery pieces in my bag. And when I tell y'all I had to take my behind to Ross and get a bunch of sweatshirts and pants, it was ridiculous how cold it was in August during that time. And I don't know, I guess I didn't bother to look up the weather. I just assumed it's California, it's going to be nice. And I packed my bags and hit the road. But nonetheless, it was an eye-opening experience and I was sold. Like, I absolutely loved it. Like, outside of that, I also felt like it was going to give me a taste of home. Again, being from New York. So I was like, I actually don't mind this. It gives you a little season to layer and everything like that. But also, it was really expensive. It's really expensive in San Francisco because they're like the tech city, and rent was absolutely insane. So I came back knowing that California is where I want to be, but maybe not San Francisco. I was still planning to either take another trip back out there or simply just move to California. When I got back, I was presented with an opportunity from my mom, and she basically sat me down and was like, I know that you're looking to move. And I know how expensive it is trying to move on your own because, again, this is during the pandemic. I'm not working at the time, I'm just collecting unemployment. And she was like, so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you stay in this apartment and I'm going to go out and find something else. So I was like, bet, say less, because my mom's place was rent stabilized and she had a 3-bedroom apartment. I was like, this is great. I get a bedroom. And at the time, I had an office space. I set up like an office room. Listen, I was like, listen, this can work out perfectly. By the time I'm able to get a job, I knew how much money I would be able to bring in. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. We talked about the price for everything. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll definitely be able to afford this. So about a month later, right? So I got back in August. She came to me with the opportunity in September. So by the time October came around, she sat down with me again and she was like, so Tisha, I just wanted to talk to you because I was looking for houses, and I decided that I'm not moving. You are. So I was like, wait, what? I'm like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, when we were going over the cost of living for everything, you said that you can afford it. And I was like, not now, like when the streets open back up and I'm able to get a job, but like I'm on unemployment and I'm on unemployment. We live in the same household. Nonetheless, her saying that really it did something for me. And for one, it was a freaking lesson for me because, like I said, when I came back, I said I was convicted. I was like, I am moving to California. There was nothing that nobody was going to do to stop me from moving to California. And I allowed that opportunity to sway me, although I had already decided that I was moving to California. So after it happened, I kind of was just like, okay, that's it. I was like, you know what? You got to get out of here. I was like, there's nothing else that's going to get in the way of me leaving. And, in terms of my mom, like, it was no bad blood or like no negative feelings because at the end of the day, I stayed home throughout my entire 20s, and me and my mom have a great relationship. It's just that you reach a point where you're ready to grow and expand, and so was I. I was ready to grow and expand. And my mom, she raised her kids. I'm in the house paying rent, and she like, girl, you can go do this on your own. You, it's gonna be a little bit more expensive, but you need to experience what it's like having your own place. And I wanted my mom to also have her own place and have her space. Like, I got it. I understood. After that, I was like, whatever I can do in my power to get one step closer to moving to LA, I'm gonna do that. So instantly, the first thing that I did was I said, it's time for me to get rid of this office and downsize back to one apartment. I need to start purging and get rid of stuff and acting as if, like, preparing like I'm moving now, although I have no place to go. I have no job. I have nothing confirmed yet. I just need to start acting as if. So sure enough, I was telling my friends, I told my friends, I was like, y'all, I'm moving. So if y'all want a desk, a chair, like, let me know. I started listing stuff on Facebook Marketplace, which I love Facebook Marketplace, but I started listing stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and I was like, that's it. Like, nothing's going to stop me. I started applying for so many jobs in California. Like, all of the jobs that I pretty much was applying for was in California. I might have put some New York jobs in there because I was just like, let's just kind of see. I still was a little bit, like, let's kind of see. But I was like, if there was a percentage, I would say 90 to like 98% of me was like, I'm going to California. It was just that other 1 to 2% that was like, just apply for jobs in New York. Like, let's just see what happens first. 3 months later, I find out that my best friend is moving. Which is so crazy because for me and my best friend, we're so connected that we be going through stuff at the same time. It's crazy. So, obviously I feel happy for my best friend, but I'm like, when's my opportunity coming? Like, when am I going to be able to say that I'm leaving? But nonetheless, I was happy for my best friend. I threw her a surprise going away party. And, I was like, okay, cool. She's in her place. So she ended up, yeah. I'm trying to remember the timeline. So January comes. My birthday is in March now, right? And mind you, what I specifically said was, I am moving and I will be in my own place in LA before 30. So now January goes by, February goes by, March comes. And when I tell you, I was completely devastated. I didn't want to do anything for my birthday. I was just like, what else do I need to do? I've been selling my stuff. I downsized. I've been throwing clothes away, going through paperwork. I'm doing everything that I need to do to act as if, to attract and manifest, moving to LA. But here we are, what, 5 months down the line, 5 months down the line, and nothing has happened yet. April rolls around and my best friend comes to New York because she moved out of state. She moved to PA, which is not far. She was probably like no more than 2 hours outside of the city, outside of New York. So April rolls around and my best friend comes into town and she's like, hey girl, like, you haven't visited my apartment yet. And, why don't you drive back home with me? So at this time, I felt like everything else was out of my control, right? I had no control on finding a job. So the one thing that I was in control of outside of, again, preparing to move, but I was already doing that and that wasn't working. So the other thing that I was in control of was my creative project. I had an office because I had a creative project. I was working on a creative project. So I was like, you know what? I don't have control over this. So I'm just going to focus on what I have control over. So I had decided that the following day, I was going to take all of my inventory, go to the park, and do a big photo shoot for it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start selling my stuff online. And, I'm just going to focus on what I have control over right now. So my best friend, like I said, she called me that same day that I was preparing everything for the photo shoot the next day. And she was like, girl, but you haven't been in my house. And I'm like, yeah, but I got this whole photo shoot, that I'm going to do. And I know I haven't been to your house, but like, can we do this again? Because she drove back and forth pretty often. So I was like, can we do this another day? For whatever reason, this particular day, like this weekend, she was so convicted. Like she was like, I don't care. Bring your stuff with you. I'll wait for you. Right. Because I'm like, this is so much stuff that I would have to pack up just to take on top of packing my bag. Like this is a lot. She like, girl, I got a car. What are you talking about? Pack up your stuff. Let's go. It ends up being like midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning. And she really waited. I ended up going to her house or whatever. And the crazy thing is I didn't even get to do the photo shoot because it rained. But everything happens for a reason because that's not what that trip was about. So as soon as I get out there, I just feel in a different energy. Like I don't even know how to explain it to y'all, but I was just in a different energy. I was in a different headspace, a positive headspace, right? And I was just reflecting and thinking about everything. And although I was frustrated, seeing my best friend's apartment, that had something to do with it where it motivated me like, girl, like it's coming, like don't give up. And I was like, you know what? I can't give up. I was like, I can't give up. I thought about that Les Brown quote, like, don't let this dream die inside of you. And I was like, all right, let me just apply for some jobs while I'm here because I brought my laptop with me. So I ended up applying for like it was like one or two jobs. It wasn't even a lot of jobs, but I ended up applying for a job and I got a response immediately. Like they contacted me the same day to like have an interview that day, or no, it was the following day. They contacted me to have an interview the following day. It was super fast. And what do you call it? So I ended up taking the interview, and by the time I got home, they wanted to do a second interview. So I'm like, okay, mind you, this is a job in LA. The pay was good. I will be able to get me a nice, a decent 1 bedroom apartment, the works. So by the time I got back home, I did the second interview, and simultaneously, my family and I had planned a trip already ahead of time out the country. But it worked out to where the interviews and around the time that I would know whether or not I would be moving coincided with the trip. So I did the first interview, I did the second interview. I probably did about 3 interviews in the span of, y'all, it was like a 3 week span time. Like this interview process was like, it was just taking time. I was hearing stuff on a weekly basis, but I'm like, I kind of need to know whether or not I'm going to LA so that I know that, whether or not I'm going on the trip. Because if I was going to LA, I would probably only give them about like a 2 week notice before I would have to move. Like basically my start date would be in 2 weeks. So I was like, I kind of need to know now. And then everything was super hot with the job, like every week, every week. And then they put me on ice. And I was like, I don't know what to do. It was like days before. And my aunt, who was like arranging the trip, was like, we need an answer. And I kind of just remember thinking, I was like, Tisha, You cannot let something that has not happened yet affect the way that you are living your life. And I was like, go on the trip. So I ended up going on a trip, had an amazing time with my family. And on the last day, I'm getting chills. On the last day, I get a call from my soon to be at that time manager. And she's like, hey, can you talk? And I'm like, yeah, I can talk. And she's like, yeah, we wanted to extend you the job opportunity. When I tell you, you cannot, the divine timing, like you cannot make that up. You cannot make that up. You cannot make that timing up. And that night during that last dinner, I announced to my family, like, it's official, I'm going to LA. And 2 weeks later, I listen, y'all. I would never recommend that to anybody. Okay. I thought it was gonna be easy because I was already purging, packing up a whole room that I've lived in for 20 plus years was not light work. It took me forever to pack up that. I was packing down to the last day, like to the last day. But nonetheless, I followed through and I made it. It happened. Future me editing this video, I just realized that I never got to tell y'all how I actually found my apartment. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to visit the state before signing a lease because I only had 2 weeks to pack up my things, find an apartment, and move to LA before starting my new job opportunity. So I went to apartments.com to find my apartment. And I just did a virtual tour on the exact unit that I ended up moving into. So it was really easy and seamless. I did not do a person virtual tour. So I did the virtual tour where you're able to click and go into the unit and look at every room from every angle. And thankfully, when I got to LA, my apartment looked exactly like the pictures. So it was really smooth and seamless. And I actually moved into one of the first apartment complexes or buildings that I found online. And this is what happens when you act as if things sort of align and orchestrate for you, to where I was under pressure and I was able to find my apartment in just 1 week with only 2 weeks to do it. But back to the video. Yeah, y'all, that's my story time on how how I manifested moving to LA. And I just feel like this is such a great foundation to what's to come, especially on a inspirational tip, because I just want to talk a lot about personal growth on this channel, wellness, and just share my journey with y'all. So if you're interested, if you like what you heard so far in this video, then make sure that you subscribe. I'm so excited. Make sure that you subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.